good?
Mm-hmm.
Being videotaped. Should be fun. It's not a live stream, so that's good. How's it going this morning, guys? Good, good. We're going to talk about social media for student organizations today. Who here has done social media for a student organization on campus? All right, a few of you. The ones that didn't raise your hand, you have plans to do so, perhaps. Just fill me in. Hello, no, you're good. I said nothing important. What is this? This is like, how are you guys student leaders? Are you like RAs? Do you like have roles in organizations? Like, I'm just totally clueless about this whole retreat. Somebody tell me.
We're the exec boards of things, and RAs are here too, but yeah.
Okay.
And the M-Store's here too. Yeah, we're
And what?
The M-Store's here as well.
Oh, good. Very cool. Okay, so, hello, come in.
Yeah,
It's not 21.
It's not 21.
We can fit.
Hey.
Don't trust nobody.
Hey, all you're not gonna get to sit together though.
We're in classroom at the same time.
Hey, what's going on? Okay.
Hey, as long as you're not district 4, you're fine. You're not? You're not? Are you district 4? I got my eye out here.
Let's sit down and get started. I think they came and started.
They started it?
Yeah. No.
Yep.
All right, we're good.
You can take 2 more people and then that's it. Anyone else?
2 more?
Yep, 21
And I
tap.
have a bouncer. All right, one more bouncer. Anyway, all right, guys, let's get started. I'm going to ask the same question I asked just a minute ago because I want to see a fresh show of hands. Who here has done social media for a student organization on campus? Okay, so that's a few more hands from the new people. Who is expecting that they're going to want to or have to do it this coming year? Very, very cool. All right, show of hands, including you, sir, on the phone. Sorry, I didn't know you. Who here, one more, we have Ruth. Who here does social media on their own behalf for themselves? All right, who thinks there may be a difference between doing it for yourself and doing it on behalf of a student organization? There most definitely is, and that's where we can sometimes have, how can I put this? There can be something lost in translation between sort of like rocking your own social media platforms and then figuring out how to do it on behalf of a student org. So it was a couple of years ago, and I like giving this talk because I have witnessed firsthand student organizations who have had some struggles on campus, but not just struggles with social media, struggles with putting on an event, for instance, that people come to. So this has happened more than once, but I remember very specifically, it was probably 2 years ago, I was getting in my car, it was like 5 o'clock, 5:15, and I'm driving away, and I got a Snapchat notification on the Get Involved MU account, and it was, I don't remember which org, but it was a picture of Booter, and it was, come on in, and Booter was completely empty, and like the little like words across the screen, it's like help, like we have an event, like help us get people here. And the event had started 15 minutes previous, so it was like 5:15, but the event started at 5 and no one came. Like I said, I don't remember what the student org was, but you can imagine that if you were putting that on, you would not be feeling too good about having no one there. It is very possible that some student orgs are going to be more popular than other ones just based on subject matter, but it could also be true that some could be more popular because they do a lot of hard work beforehand, during, after, and we're going to talk about that as we go. So, as you guys may know, I'm Chris. If anyone wants to connect on LinkedIn, you can, and definitely follow us on Get Involved MU. So, Talk to me, guys, real quick about some of the social media best practices that have worked well for you if you've done it on behalf of the student org. Yes, please.
I feel like asking other people for certain ideas, because like when you get on social media for another platform or university, you have to put like certain posts to get other people like, interactive with what you post. Instead of like just you posting something on social media that, you might feel comfortable with. Like if I would put for example, like something about Houston with James Harden. Not everybody likes James Harden, so that's not gonna really, get everybody's interest in one, topic. So, you gotta look at everybody's interest and ask different ideas and opinions.
Okay.
And, you can put them together.
I very much appreciate that. Do keep in mind when it comes to marketing in general, that it is okay to polarize. So your event can't be for everyone, but you can stand for something, and then you're gonna have a certain group of people who are gonna join you, but you're gonna have a certain group of people who could even rise to the level of hating on you. Right, but ultimately, we know that James Harden needs to beat the Golden State Warriors.
Game 7.
Yes,
Houston,
sir,
Game 7.
yes.
Don't start.
Sick of them, sick of them.
Sick of it.
Now, you're still gonna listen, but now we have a little bit of a polarization between us.
So you would like my
And
post.
therefore, we will be connecting during this entire
But Trey
time.
wouldn't like it because he's a Warriors fan, so like.
The point being though, is that that's a great example though, but do keep in mind that no matter what student organization you are running, there's no way you're gonna be able to appeal to everyone. And that's okay, because there is nothing in this world that appeals to everyone, except money perhaps. What, anyone else? Yes?
You gotta start early, so you gotta start marketing early, like maybe a week or two before, and then as the event gets closer, you need to start posting like every day. And at least for Go Saves, it seemed to help a lot this semester.
I've actually wondered, as like kind of the person who runs our main social and wishes to help student orgs with visibility and awareness and attendance at events and all that, like what is the right time to get on your generation's calendar? I know that I live on a calendar that I would not be standing here if this wasn't on my calendar. Like I would have forgotten to be here. And so I've got this one on. I literally have something afterwards that's gonna remind me to eat lunch. Like it's that bad. Answer that question for me. Like, and maybe you guys are all different, but do you guys live off a calendar? And if so, like what, like do you, like how soon do you put things on? As soon as you know it's gonna happen, or?
I've got my calendar planned out 3 months in advance.
Okay, 3 months, that's pretty good.
Wow.
Say that again?
If you come tomorrow,
So if it's an interesting event and I say, we're putting it on tomorrow, free food in LJ's or whatever, if you're available and it sounds interesting,
like I'll show up.
you'd be able to go. Anyone else? Like what, is there anyone else with, we've got 3 months, 1 day, anyone in between? Yes, please.
It's more like a weekly basis kind of thing.
Okay.
So like, I just like to take it like week by week, because it makes it way easier. Because if I'm just like, oh, well, this is what I got this week, and then take that day by day, instead of just focusing on, like, this is what I have for like this month. Because like, I feel like that's way more overwhelming.
So that would actually fit in with your idea of maybe starting about a week in advance. I was just always curious, like if I didn't start, as early as 2 weeks, could your calendars fill up? And it really does depend on the person. There are some of you who are probably way more involved than other people. There are some students who, like, in my view, have too much going on. I don't even know how you find time for schoolwork. But I'm more like you. Like, man, I'm not even thinking about next week right now. Like, I just want to get through this week, And starting April 1, all I was trying to do was get through every day until basically yesterday happened. And now it's like, I'm just exhaling and I'm glad to be here and commencement is over and things slow down a little bit in our department. So, anyone else? Any other social media best practices? Yes, please.
Do your research on who you're doing social media for.
Okay.
Because you never know what really makes the group alive whenever you're posting, and so it's best to know the best highlights of the group in order to present that in all your social media posts.
So you're kind of saying like, are you saying that if you understand the organization well, that you might be able to represent it in a way that what I call strangers, that's my marketing term. Strangers are people who don't know you or your cause very well. That you'd be able to translate that information.
Yeah, into an easier way where they can look at it and be like, oh, hi, he's not stupid. actually sounds kind of cool.
It's always good when you're not stupid, right? So those are some good, does anyone else have an example of a social media practice that has worked for you?
Have like something, like a reason why they wanna go, like, oh, we're doing this fun activity, or there's food. I know that's the one that most people use, so.
Like, raise your hands if free food is interesting to you. No? You gotta eat.
Free food is great, especially when you ain't got no dining out.
You said no.
I always try to remind myself or any student groups I'm working with, if there is free food, to try to put that somewhere, whether if it's a snap and it's a spoken word, but if they forget, I'll try to put it on the screen. It just seems like a no-brainer, and it seems to draw a crowd. Definitely depending on the event. There are some events now that we've had, annually year over year, and so they seem to be, garnering some sort of reputation. I think how do you pronounce it? The elote bar?
Yeah.
Like, that thing just always crushes because it's really tasty, and so we all know that now because we've had it a few times. So, good. So, I wanna share quickly 4 things that I, like, when people ask what my social media strategy is, this is what I tell them. So, this is what I'm always trying to do with our social media. So, number 1, I am literally just trying to inform you. I'm trying to let you know what is going on campus, whether it be, Turan won another award, or, this event is at this location at this date. Maryville just hired a new chief technology evangelist. That literally happened today, it came out. So always trying to just let you know what is going on. While doing so, if there's anything about that information that is interesting or impressive, I will attempt to impress you with it. Without bragging, hopefully without even humble bragging, I will attempt to have you think favorably about us, about Maryville University, about the student organization that I'm working with. Because once you're impressed, I have purchased a little bit of your attention. And as you guys know on social media, your attention is very precious. All of our attention is very precious. It really depends. When you boot up your phone, what are you gonna look at? Are you gonna binge watch YouTube? Are you gonna check Snapchat out? Do you have any time for Instagram after having done those things? So the more that I can impress you, the more that I will be able to draw some of that precious attention my way. Attention is currency, okay? And so you need to have some of it in your back pocket. I also try to humanize the organization. So I don't know if any of you follow any of our social media at all, but what I attempt to do is, while informing and impressing, is letting people know that Maryville is a school filled with amazing people, but I don't try to craft our messages in a way where I am marketing to you. I have seen a lot of universities that do that, and it feels pushy. And I don't want to push Maryville upon you. I want to show you what the real Maryville is. I want you guys in your student groups to show what is it really like to come to ABC or Latinx Student Alliance or Connect. What's it really, really like? Instead of just trying to drag you there, I want to show you what it's all about. And then if it looks like something you're interested in, you'll opt in to come. And then what tends to happen, even all the way up to the level of admissions, is that people self-select into something that they can get an accurate read on. They look at Maryville and they say, I think I could fit in there. And all of a sudden, y'all come here, and then we've got, lots of you stay year after year. So, and then the last thing, and this is something that most aspects of marketing, like all the other friends I have in our marketing department, are not paying much attention to, because, if it's like a printed product or it's our website, there's not a lot of entertainment going on. But again, understanding something really, really important about social media will help you guys succeed. Understanding why people use social media, okay? And there are a lot of different reasons, okay? We are procrastinating. We should be doing something else, but instead we're screwing around on social media. We are just decompressing. We are just letting go for a little bit. We are doing something mindless instead of all of the mindful work that you guys have to do to succeed in a challenging school like this. And we are laughing. We're being entertained. We're watching something that we want to watch. It's like me time. So how can I, as an institution, how can you guys, as a student group, how can you get in on people's me time? you can be fun, you can be entertaining, you can show what's fun. This job is very easy for me because college is supposed to be fun. And this place is pretty fun, and if we can show that fun, and we're gonna talk more about that, hopefully we will have a chance to entertain people. This is something that, like most of like higher level people, the VPs and Mr. President, this is not interesting to them. But I have to make it interesting to me, or else we will not succeed as a social media, as a marketing team. So, who here has put on, curated an event on behalf of a student group? Was it fun?
I would like to think so, yeah.
Was it challenging? What challenges did you face?
Well, getting the material be something that people would actually enjoy and come and want to be educated, because it was like a sex education event.
Okay. Anyway, looking at that last one down there. Okay, was it stressful? Did you feel like it's all on me if I don't do a good job?
Right.
Okay, you felt that way? What about you?
Well,
Becca, right? Yeah.
well, like, what question do you want me to answer first? Was it challenging? Was it?
Yeah, just like overall, did you feel like the weight of success and failure on you as you?
Well, I mean, Connect sticks together pretty well, so I mean, we all kind of take the responsibility for whatever happens, even if it is like one person's event, like, there's a whole, like, group of 50 people behind them at all times, so no, it didn't really feel like it was all on me.
Yeah, that's good. So, Connect is a larger student organization. There's gonna be a few more, human assets you can throw at various problems, and we're gonna talk about some of the steps to putting on a good event actually right now. So, when this is how my brain works, and I'm just gonna share it with you. You can do with it as you see fit. When I'm faced with a challenge or something that I don't know how to do, I basically deconstruct it into 6 steps. And so I try to understand what our goals are, what's our goals and desired result. Then, and I think Maddie, you said it earlier about doing some prep work, some promotion beforehand. There's a lot of actions that you can take beforehand. And I guess in this case, really, I'm speaking about events, because I really do want your events to be successful. There's, of course, social media and other things that you can do during the event. This is often overlooked, what you can do afterward, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Hopefully there is the desired result. We had a good event. People thought highly of us. They followed us on social media, or they just had fun. You made one new friend. Honestly, that would make it a good event for me. And then, wash, rinse, repeat. So let's talk about these real quick. Some of those goals we talked about, just making new friends, generating some visibility and awareness for your organization. As we said, maximizing event attendance, and perhaps if it's like Maryville student government or something like that, you're actually trying to change a policy or make a difference, you're trying to make some change happen. So one thing that I don't really have on here is anything about engagement. So it's a huge buzzword in social media. And this is what I would say about it. Have any of you guys noticed, especially when you were doing social media on behalf of a student organization, how difficult it was to get anyone to do anything? And I don't mean like your fellow Connect members. I mean like literally drawing people to your event or getting anyone to comment back. It can be really difficult, right? So Professor York at our communications professor, he has all the students in a class, they do a social media takeover of a certain club or whatever. So someone took MU equestrian, didn't even know we had horses, but now I do because that person took over and showed all the horses jumping over things and stuff. But one thing that they all said loud and clear is how difficult it was to get anyone to actually engage with that. Bless you.
Bless you.
And here's what I would say. I'd say, yes, it is extremely difficult. Like, how often, ask yourself, like, when you get on social media during me time and you're blowing off steam and decompressing and just being entertained, like, how much are you double tapping on? Like, how many things do you comment on? Some people are like that. Some people will like everything, right? And then you have to ask yourself, what is their engagement even worth if they will literally click like on anything? If you're more selective, you're only gonna like pictures where it's not blurry and the person's smiling. If you wouldn't want to post a picture that was blurry and had someone frowning or whatever. So how often do you guys actually interact with things online that are not each other? You know, you can Snapchat or GroupMe or whatever all day with people, but the answer is probably like not that often. You're probably pretty selective. You're probably not gonna throw a like or a comment to someone, you just keep scrolling if it wasn't amazing. So what I'm telling you guys is that even though I never interacted with the MU Equestrian Instagram account, now I know that they're on campus. And there was a whole bunch of other student organizations too that definitely generated additional visibility with zero engagement. They were just generating visibility and awareness by putting posts out. Yes, it's amazing if people engage, but I don't want you guys to lose sleep over it. And I'm not like most social media people. I would usually say you have to get engagement. Really what you want is more people knowing you exist. You want more people to come to your events. You want Maryville to add parking. Just kidding. And you hopefully want to make some new friends, like real friends. Friends of your organization, but personal friends as well. So let's talk about those actions beforehand. We definitely talked about social media posts. Maddie's idea is to start them a week early. I think that's perfectly fine. 2 weeks is fine also, as long as you don't forget to post in the week leading up. Definitely use social media where people are reachable. So I feel like you guys are still reachable. Raise your hand if you're still using Snapchat on a regular basis. Is there anyone who has left Snapchat because of Instagram stories? No one. Amazing. Okay. Why is that funny? There's a lot of people on Instagram stories now. It's insane. But I'm very, I'm heartened. I feel good to know that you haven't left yet Snapchat. So definitely use it where people are reachable. So I feel like you are all reachable still for the most part on Snapchat. Follow, get involved. But try to keep in mind where people are. So the esports teams that we have, like they don't use Instagram. It's really weird. They are all obsessed with Twitter. So knowing that, I do most of my work on Twitter when I'm working with them. Yes, please.
Do you know why they're so into Twitter?
It's probably, that's a good question. I have not.
Because the way that the monitor, they can have it up at the same time, so it's like a click for them instead of like having to log into Instagram or like having it on a different browser.
That's interesting.
They're never on their phones, they're always on their monitors.
They talk, you go ahead, also.
I was just gonna say, because, most gamers, they follow Twitter, because on Twitter, they have links to gameplays and
Twitch and stuff like that.
websites. So it's just the common ground to do it.
Yeah, it's the established common ground, and so now if you're entering it as a new gamer, it's like, where do I go? So Twitter's kind of dominates in that area. I also think it's because they like to talk a lot of trash with each other, and Twitter is the dumpster fire you need to talk trash. So if you see something in red during this, I want you to really, really pay attention to it. And to be totally honest, of anything I say today, whether you're listening or not, I want you to listen right now. This is the most important thing in this whole talk. Is when you are attempting to get anything done as a student organization, you can force engagement to happen by cheating, okay? So the best kind of engagement is when you post something and it just goes viral. That super duper rarely ever happens. So what you need to do is cheat. You need to go behind the scenes and you need to rally the troops. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Some of you may not have been here, but 2 years ago, we had a student, she's actually a student here now, who, she was a high school senior and she posted on social media. That is correct. She said, help. She posted the word help in 2 pictures. One of Maryville and one of Missouri State. Missouri State is 10 times as large as Maryville in population. And their social media accounts are larger as well. And so I saw this and I understood exactly what you meant. And so I started tweeting back as Maryville. And then Missouri State started tweeting back and they kind of said a few things to me and I was like, no. So we got into a little bit of a war, but I kept it, you know, we kept it very respectful.
PG-13.
It was PG. It was like G. It was fine. But when it came time to try to prove to this potential student that Maryville was the place to be, I didn't just sit back and wait for people to see that tweet. I started DMing every student leader that I knew who I was connected to on Twitter, either from Maryville or from my own personal Twitter account, because people follow that as well. I have a lot of mobile numbers in my phone just from MRO and students knowing who I am, and so I started hitting up everyone and saying, if you are able, and if you feel comfortable saying something nice, I want you to jump into Twitter and I want you to say something nice. I worked incredibly hard on this. I had no idea that Tuesday or whatever, that it was gonna literally consume my entire day. I had no idea, but I was like, I am not, I mean, if she chooses to go somewhere else, that's fine, but like, I am not gonna lose on social media. and we, like, in a way, we completely crushed them. I mean, we had 20 times the engagement, and she noticed. And I don't know the true story, you know, hopefully she's happy here, I have no clue. But I really don't, I don't know or even know her as a person, but like, you know, if you've ever had someone say, like, you cannot win, like a war or a fight on the internet, I won one. And that was awesome. But I did it, thank you, sir. But I did it by completely cheating and gaming the system. Now, is Maryville as good of a place as it appeared online that day? I truly believe that it is. But I wasn't gonna leave it to chance because your attention is precious and it might have been hard to get you to do anything for me, so I asked. And I asked behind the scenes. This can be, you can't do this like every day, okay? You can't have a tweet every day and says, hey, can you boost that? Hey, can you retweet that? Hey, can you comment on that? People will get sick and tired of you. You will be like the living embodiment of spam if you do that, okay? You don't want to be that. But if you can build a following, you can build friendships, you can know who Becca is, and Becca can know who you are, and you guys can make friends, and you can realize we have similar interests, and we're different in some ways, and we work for 2 different organizations, but we can help each other. Then you can create that context, an actual, like, human, you know, togetherness to create what you need in order to reach your goals. So don't forget when, you know what hits the fan, and you need help, and you want something good to happen. Do it behind the scenes. The action during would be obviously putting on a great event. So Connect may have, you said 50, that seems like a lot, but perhaps there aren't that many people that work. You may have a big student organization, you may have a small one. This is a social media talk, it's not how to put on a great event talk. But don't forget to put on a great event. Don't forget to actually curate something that people will not be offended to be at, that it will be fun to be at. Social media is like the communication vehicle that's like stapled to the side of your event. Don't forget that your event is really, really important. I am a huge fan of now. I love posting what's happening right now. People seem to love watching our Facebook Live broadcasts, and they love to know what's happening right now, even if they're not there. Part of your goal is to make people wish they had been there. If they didn't show up, they should wish that they had been there. So you can show the Qdoba or whatever free food there is. Jeff Pizza, who are we kidding? Obviously, photos and video, it is wonderful to have a visual or a set of visuals. Twitter, you can post 4 pictures at a time. Instagram, what is it, galleries of 10. And then, another thing, social media takeovers. So Snapchat seems to be the one that everyone asked to take over. Had Becca's help at Cram Jam, yes. She took the Maryville Snapchat, which is great, because then I didn't have to do it, and every one of you is better at Snapchat than I am. So it's really great to have takeovers, and I will pretty much give the Snapchat account to anyone after I have a meeting with them and make sure they understand the #1 rule of Snapchat takeovers, which is don't get me fired. It's not a joke. So don't forget that, you know, our social media accounts are bigger than yours. So don't forget to ask if you want, and you can do a Twitter takeover, I don't care. Most people go for Snapchat. But this can be a really fun way to generate some big visibility. And then, you had mentioned earlier about having just help. You know, if it's possible to separate duties at it, do so. So yesterday at commencement, graduation, I had a team of, I don't know, 6, 7, or 8 people or something like that, volunteering to help, mostly students. And one of the students, her only job was to go around, and I wanted her to do 10 to 15 posts where she took a photo of the person and just told a story about them. And so she didn't have to run around like crazy, making sure everything happened. All she had to do was focus for me and for Maryville on getting 10 to 15 photos of people and then just tell an interesting story about them. You know, they just graduated, they're gonna start working in cybersecurity, they're getting married in June, whatever it was that made it interesting, and she did a fantastic job. So if you're able to separate duties in that way, definitely do so. So, after the event's over, a lot of us will just go back to our regular lives, but what you can also do is attempt to post sort of some recap videos or recap photographs so that people can, again, you can stoke a little bit of FOMO. You can say, hey, you should have been at this. This is interesting. Because you probably won't just be doing one event during the year. So if you're able to get people wishing they had been there, they may come to your next event. Most of you are not gonna have an email list, but I did want to put it on there because sometimes we're not always checking our email, but email marketing is not dead. So if there is an email list of any kind, and of course we have like a university-wide one, it can be really, really helpful. So, so hopefully the result is that you attracted new members to your organization, your event was adequately sized or perhaps even bigger than the previous year, and hopefully you made some sort of difference. But when I said earlier, wash, rinse, repeat, this is what can really make a difference and tip the scales for the future. Because like the 2019-2020 version of Connect or Inclusion at Maryville it's just like a snapshot in time. There's gonna be a version of it next year and after that, and you want to build upon the successes of the past and hand off a student organization to the future that is in great shape. So continuing to do steps 1 through 5 over and over and over again is what's gonna make a real difference. So I mentioned earlier, you know, putting on an event. I highly stress, and it can be stressful, but if you're having fun, because it's supposed to be fun, that will come through in your social media posts. If you speak with a smile, people can tell. It just makes a huge difference. If you're having fun, it's really gonna help your social media look, sound, and feel better. If you're not having fun, it's pretty hard to just flip a switch and say, I'm gonna have fun today. I understand that can be difficult, but if there is fun to be had and you can show it off on social media, you're going to give yourself a good chance of having success. So, the only thing I want to say about this slide is that if your student organization has a mission, it is very possible that that mission is not achieved yet. Perhaps it will never be achieved. Maybe it's just a process that you're going through over and over and over again. Inclusion at Maryville, Inclusive MU, progress, lots of work left to do. But if we can show progress along the way, people absolutely love to see that on social media. So a good example at the university level would be the university strategic plan. It's a 7-year plan, 2015 to 2022. There's all sorts of goals in there. So when the plan started, it was like 2022 seemed really far away, but we started working on everything right away. Some of it we've achieved, but some of it we're on our way. But I'm not gonna wait to talk about the work that we're doing until we succeed. when we succeed, it's gonna be amazing. Like, that'll be a great post, it'll get a lot of likes and stuff like that. But I wanna show progress along the way. So if you're working on a mission of any kind, make sure that you show and document the work, don't just document the end. Does that make sense? I just wanted to share this list with you because along with inform, impress, humanize, and entertain, this is another way that my brain thinks, and I like to share it with groups. I actually give full talks on this. But this is how I come up with content. And I'll just go through it super briefly and we will move on. So the first two are quantity and quality. And so for me, I like to have quantity and quality, like play a game of tug of war and then no one ever wins. I mean, in tug of war, someone always wins, like the bodies go flying one way, right? But for me, I like to have no one ever win. So what that means is, like, I'm trying to put out as much as I can, but it has to be pretty good. And trying harder slows me down a little bit, but that's okay. But I can't go so slow that I only get like, I can't be a perfectionist either. Sometimes a picture is a B, not an A+. And I've got to ship that and I have to move on. So I really, really like in my job, I love the tension that this creates, and it forces creativity out of me. So real just means like being completely honest in your social media. I never want to show Maryville in an incorrect light. And what are the other ones? So two other ones that I want to mention. We've touched upon these real quick. Well, unafraid, let me say that too. Unafraid means so much to me here at Maryville. Unafraid to try new things, unafraid to go and do work that no one else will do, like show up at all the events, like just put in the effort, being unafraid of each other. So that means more inclusiveness, more understanding of each other. Unafraid is probably is one of the most important ones here. But then these two also, there used to be 8 and then I came up with 2 more, curiosity and empathy. So part of our social media here is me just wandering canvas and saying, what are you doing? What is that? What does that mean? And it usually turns in, it can often turn into good social media. And then empathy speaks for itself. The world needs more empathy. So on this list of tips that I want to give you, I would say that like avoid being boring as much as you can. And if I'm being boring now, then I'm failing. But if you can put out content that is exciting, that entertains, that humanizes, you're gonna give yourself a good chance to succeed, okay? And then this is another thing to keep in mind, and we touched upon it a little bit. As you guys work for different organizations, or you represent different organizations, definitely find ways to work together. Okay, so you guys can cooperate, you can share followers, you can attend each other's events. I always see athletics doing this, and I really appreciate it. I like seeing the lacrosse team go and watch women's soccer or whatever the case. So it's always really, really good to see people out there. Obviously, don't post any confidential information. People's phone numbers and stuff like that is just like a super horrible idea. Don't do that. This third one speaks for itself. Please, please don't do that. And then another thing I'll touch upon is try to paint people in the best possible light. Who likes the way their voice sounds on audio?
I mean,
No one likes it, so don't raise your hand. You can raise your hand. We hate the way we sound. We're very self-critical of the pictures that we take of ourselves or whatever. So what I always try to do is if I take a photo of any of you, I will try to look at it to make sure that it looks okay. And because I understand what it would be like to have like a photo of me, like taken from the side. Got a little weight to lose here. This isn't going so well, but if I stand like this and kind of suck it in a little bit, things look a little better. I would rather you take my picture this way. I've had pictures of people where their shirt was kind of hiked up and it's just like skin everywhere, and it's like that. I can retake that photo, and so can you. Does that make sense? It's just really important for people to. I mean, everyone has some level of vanity, and I can respect that. I do kind of push the envelope a little bit sometimes with video where it depends. If I know the person, like I'll go and do like a Snapchat ambush or something, but I'll just like start recording, and half of you are used to it by now, but the other half aren't. And so if it's something that someone doesn't want you to post, then you should heed their request and just not post it. I've had people say, oh, and can we retake that photo? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I think you guys are already working on this, or someone's helping you with this, but this is something that we as a university have failed at, and at times, and it can really make for a sucky situation. So if you possess the login information to an account, I don't even have a plan for this yet, but somehow we have to find a way to pass it on to the next generation of people handling the accounts, or we won't have access to them anymore. We might not be able to find you. We might not be able to get the password. We might not know what the recovery email is, and like all that work that you did all year to gain followers is lost because no one has access to the account. Is that something that is anyone who has access to any of our social media, has that ever been covered with you guys? Is that a thing? Okay. I didn't know if there's like a system in place already, or if we should like try to put something together, because it's happened in the past, and so there's two Go Saints Twitter accounts, and there's like a new M-Store account, the other one's gone. Just like really weird stuff, and it's just not good. It's just a waste of your time. All year, all the work you did, now gone because we don't have access. So, I also want to say, and when I mentioned this one earlier, social media is obviously so digital, and I often think of the rest of our lives as analog. And so I do still I look at the chalk when I'm walking. There are other ways to get the word out about your events or what you're doing, and so I do like the analog. And then I do want to touch on this as well. So when I said earlier that it is exceedingly difficult to get people to do anything ever, to literally get them off the couch and do anything, to activate a behavior that it can be very, very difficult. But one thing that can make it easier is to have one place to send someone so that they can have all the information that they need. So your event is in LJ's at 6:30, and there's gonna be Qdoba. How can we communicate that in one space so we can point everyone to it so they all know? If it's a tweet, if it's a video, whatever the case is, you have to have something that just, because again, your attention is precious. So you can't make it difficult, or people will just move on with their day. They will swipe right by, they'll scroll right by. So one spot where you're like, oh, you wanna come to our event? Here's all the info, right here. If it's like contained in 3 different tweets, and it's over here like on OrgSync, and then we tweeted here, but we forgot to put the time, and it's just, you're making it hard on people. You can't do that. So have a place somewhere where all the information is. If it's Spirit Rock, that's fine. As long as it's one place where you can say, wanna know what's going on? It's right there. Just make it, you have to make it easy on people. So, as I mentioned, photos are important. I think videos are a little bit underutilized by student groups, perhaps except on Snapchat, but not all student groups have a Snapchat account, and that's okay. So I want to try to explain to you what I mean by add 10% to your videos. And for that, I need a volunteer. Yes, come on up here. I want you to take my phone, and I want you to pretend that, you don't have to turn on anything, but I want you to pretend that you're gonna like selfie, you're gonna do what group are you with?
ABC and LC.
Okay, so ABC has an event in LJ's at 8 o'clock, and I want you to do like, I want you to selfie a video, and I want you to tell people to come, and I want you to give them the information, and then we're gonna post that out on social media. Go.
So like, how would I do it, or like actually like roll for it?
Just pretend that you're making the video right now. We're gonna post it when you're done.
I got you. What's up, Darius Allen from the treasurer at ABC. Tonight we have an event in the LJ's at 8 p.m. Come on, join us, have a good time.
What do you guys think? I want you to do it again I want you to add 10%. Come on, man, bring it.
Do it back for
Let's go, let's go. No, don't bring it. Add 10%. Are you excited about this event?
Super excited.
It's gonna be great, right? What kind of food is there gonna be?
Great food.
Bring it. Let's see it. Go.
What's up? My name is James Davenport from Treasure Park ABC. Tonight we have an event at 8 p.m. in Booter Commons. Come out, we're gonna have great food, great prizes. See you there. Boom.
Okay, he added 10%. Did you see that? Dude, you did good. What's your name again? Darius? Pleasure. That's what I mean. That was like a perfect example. Can you, hey, I have to give this talk later. Will you come do that again? That's exactly what I'm talking about. The first one was okay. The second one was better. He brought 10%. What you don't realize, what maybe a lot of us do not realize is, you know, if I walked up to you on the street, you know, and I was like, hey man, come to our event, it's in the LJ's at 8 p.m. You'd be like, get away from me, crazy person. You know, it's like too much. It's like, my personal zone, get out, you know? But on video, you don't come across as insane. You don't. Like, you'll see this on TV a lot. You'll see like TV, like newscasters or sportscasters. They act in a way that they would never talk to someone in person. Even when talking, I do not walk around my house at home this demonstrative. Why haven't you picked up your clothes in your room? I just pick them up myself because my kids won't do anything. But the point is that when you add that 10%, you're going to feel, hey, how did it feel? First of all, I made you do it a second time. But was that like annoying to have to do that again? Did you feel like a goofball when you added 10%? A little? Do you feel like a goofball anyway, like when you have to make video? Could everyone do what he did, you think? Does anyone have like super camera anxiety and literally could not rip off a video like that? Anybody? Really? All right, I'm not gonna make you come up and do it. Unless you want to.
No.
Okay. Extra credit? Oh, forget this. Great thing. So, that second video was way better. And even if he felt funny, this is a critical time for this talk. Did anyone feel like he was a goofball when he did added 10%? You just watched it. And by the way, you watched it in person. If you watched it on the screen, you'd think nothing of it. You'd be like, awesome. The first one was good. The second one was better. Add 10% to your videos. And if you do a Snapchat takeover, add 10% also. No one will think, how much caffeine did that person have? Like, what'd they get into? It's not like that. It's because video can take 10% extra or 20%. Super important. I mentioned takeovers, and then also crowdsourcing picks. So we do this a lot. Depending on the size of your event, you can ask for people to submit photos, and then you don't have to do all the work. So yesterday I did a lot of crowdsourcing. I had people posting about graduation from all sorts of social media, both working for us and then just doing it on their own, and I find their photos and repost them. So you don't have to do all the work yourself. So this is the final thing, and then we'll take some questions. We'll probably end a little bit early. One thing to keep in mind, I'm just gonna be as honest as I can. When you're representing, when you're here at Maryville and you're working even for a student organization, you're representing the university, okay? So you have to, I strongly suggest that you work to paint our university in the best possible light. Hey, if something's going wrong, if Maryville is doing you wrong, like we wanna know about it. We had an issue yesterday at commencement, it's terrible. Someone couldn't get in with some certain regalia that they were wearing. Like the family arena staff, they're jerks. It was not cool, I wanna know about those things. But if you guys are working for a student organization, you are working on behalf of Maryville University. And the people who run this place, they're old and they don't like risk. And so what will often happen, this is just the truth, this is especially true if you're a student athlete. Like, they're not gonna want the trouble. They'll just cut and move on. That's just as honest as I can be. It'll be great if you can go and explain yourself, but it's easier just to say bye. That's just how it can be. This is not a threat, I'm just letting you know this is how the real world works. So, it is best not to make the university look bad, as I mentioned earlier about painting people in the best possible light. It's best not to make any of your friends or your fellow Maryville Saints look bad. It's just really, really important to keep in mind, especially if you do a takeover, don't get me fired, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I've had 0 problems with handing over social media to any of you. So it's just kind of how things are here. So let's keep up the tradition of not getting Chris fired. Do you guys have questions? Let me answer some questions. Yes, please.
So, when like running an event across like multiple platforms, like what's the best way to go about it? Because like not everybody follows the organization on every single platform.
So you're saying like what's the best way to do social media when your audience is in multiple places? Yeah, the best thing to do, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can be incredibly good at one of the platforms, and then people in general will gain an understanding of where to go to follow that organization and to get more information. So if you're, we have organizations that don't do Instagram and only do Twitter. So is there anyone, raise your hand in here if you're not on Twitter. Oh, okay, a few. All right, raise your hand if you are on Twitter, but you just don't use it all that much. Okay, a few more people. So we can't talk to these people on Twitter. We won't see it. So what you can do is you can also have an Instagram account, because they are on Instagram probably. Instagram would be a great place, I think, for every student organization to be. And if you had to pick, I would say choose Instagram, but I'm not telling you to pick. I'm telling you to try to do both. I would say that a lot of student organizations are not on Snapchat, and as you all raised your hand earlier, you'd have to ask yourself, why is that? I don't know. It can be hard for a student org to build a following on Snapchat. What do you think, man? You're nodding your head yes.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's hard for people or for organizations to be on Snapchat, because people wouldn't look at them as much. But yeah, definitely Instagram would be more.
Yeah, and Instagram takeovers so far have not really happened as far as grabbing the Maryville one. But anyone in this room now knows you can always just grab the Maryville one, and we got 3,000 followers or something. So there's a group of people on there. So you don't need to build one from scratch. You can just use ours whenever you need it. Yes.
I just think, how you said earlier, there's a difference between promoting yourself and a student organization. Having Get Involved MU is one thing, but that's just one account to follow. So Snapchat, I think we like to keep personal, but Instagram and Twitter is made for those bigger companies and those bigger followings. Snapchat, I think we just want to keep separate. So having it flooded with organizations and activities, it's Snapchat's supposed to be our one space without that.
How many of you guys agree with that? That it's more of a personal place, and you'd rather not have various organizations flooding your feed or being marketed to? It's just not interesting. Who agrees with that? Yes? Cool. So my answer to your question is Darius, right? See if you can do, if your people are on 2 social media platforms, try to work on 2 social media platforms. And you can put the same thing on both. Sometimes you might hear that's not a good practice, so you put the exact thing on Instagram, Instagram and Twitter, both the same. And you think ooh, maybe someone will see both, and that will be really annoying. That's gonna be 2 people. There is crossover, but even if there is perfect crossover, you follow us on both, what are the chances that you're simultaneously on both accounts? It's low. It's low. So what I would say is take the risk of annoying a few people in order to get your information out to as many people as possible. I'm willing to take that risk. And some people will say, well, Chris is not being original. It's fine, that's 2 people. 3, maybe 5. Everyone else is hanging out on Instagram and they're not on Twitter. So let's get our information on Instagram. Make sense? I forgot to talk to you guys about a few things. So you've probably seen me wandering campus with this. If you're gonna do video, or you're gonna do Instagram Live, or Periscope, or heaven forbid, Facebook Live, something like this can be really helpful. Has anyone seen me wandering around with this? Does anyone know what this is? Yeah, so this is a stabilizer. So you turn it on, and then I'm able to walk, and people watching my videos will not get seasick because it gets rid of the shakes. I can run with it, and it keeps it pretty steady. Now there's the newer phones, the new GoPro Hero 7 Black, it has video stabilization in it. So even without one of these, like, you can run and it's just like freaking magic. It's amazing. But this doesn't exactly have that, and certain apps like Facebook Live, they have no stabilization. It like shakes it on purpose. I don't know, it's crazy. So this was the best $300 that my boss has ever spent. This is now $130. So not everyone's got $130 laying around, but they do have one of these, I think, over in the CSE. I think Ebony, Ramsey, somebody over there has one of these. This is borrowable. Mine's not, but theirs is over there. So you could borrow this. There's a few of these floating around. Cab or Connect might have purchased one too a few years ago. So this is just really helpful because I can move around and it keeps things super duper smooth. This one in particular, you can do Snapchat. It starts hurting my wrist after a while, but I can do Instagram Live with this, and it makes a huge difference in how your videos look. Another thing is, if you're going to be working in an event and your phone, lots of our phones are old and the batteries are not good on them anymore, you can get a portable phone charger. Okay? Full disclosure, this is actually my company, Boosa Tech, shameless plug. I actually sell portable phone chargers. Check out boosatech.com. That was dirty. But honestly, the reason I started this company is the job that I'm in, I always have to keep both of my phones powered up. And if I'm using them all day, I can't go to an event with 10% power. That's like not gonna work. So having a portable phone charger can help. And then you'll see it back here. I actually went and checked this out from the library, but you'll see the one back here as well. These are owned by CSE now, but this is checked out from the library. They have 2 of them. It's like a book, check it out. That's all you have to do. And what you can do is, you can do Facebook Live from this. I mean, I like doing Facebook Live from my stabilizer because I like moving around and having it kind of actually appear to be like a movie of sorts. But if you don't want to do that, but you do want to stream an event, maybe it's the Maryville student government meeting, or maybe it is a fun event, the elote bar, and you just want to show like everyone coming through. All you have to do is go to the library, check one of these out. You could do Instagram Live, Periscope. I like Facebook Live, but I know that Facebook is not like super popular with your generation. That's cool. But all you have to do is set it up and hit play, and you can walk away, and now you're showing your event live. So, and everyone has an iPad, so you can just use your iPad. And like I said, they have 2 of these on checkout at the library. And 2's not very many, but they're often there. I'm trying to think, what other questions do you guys have? More? Anything? Are you gonna ask me to do Snapchat takeovers? Starting next year? Please? All right. Hey, thank you guys for being here and listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Crazy.
I just wondering
Bro, I died. You said that one. When you said that one, I was dying, bro.
Yeah.
last night?
No, we
No,
didn't.
I thought you
got it. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys. Good luck with the judge.
Thanks, yeah, I'm trying to drink more water, so hopefully that helps.
I'm not trying to go off on myself.
Hey, thanks.
See you.
All right, we'll see you.
I have a good one.